What is something you opted out of that went horribly wrong for those that went through with it? A group of my friends were smoking synthetic marijuana at a party in the days where it was a new thing and hadn't made the news for the adverse effects it causes. I turned it down because I had college the next day and had to go home and rest up. I heard the next day that 2 of my buddies had ended up in hospital, having suffered seizures, and the third had suffered temporary heart problems. The Cave Creek disaster. Link: 14 people died when a viewing platform collapsed. It took 2 hours for the first responders to get there, which was no fault of theirs. It was simply rough terrain and isolated. 2 of my mates died there, and I was meant to go, but was hungover as hell. I worked with the engineer who designed the platform about 3 years later, and the poor guy still believed it was his fault. Which it wasn't. He designed it perfectly, the workers who constructed it used the wrong size bolts. Not me, but my parents. They had planned a trip to Virginia Beach with a close friend of theirs. They were to take a small plane down, spend a few days, then fly back. My uncle Jed for a local radio station at the time, and was given a few tickets to see the Who. He offered his spares to my mom and dad, who accepted even though it was the same weekend as the planned beach trip. Their friend ended up going, but the flight back never made it. The pilot was advised not to depart, as there was severe weather along his flight path, but he went for it anyways. The plane crashed with no survivors. If it weren't for them deciding to go see the Who, I wouldn't be here. I'm named after the friend that died, and was coincidentally born a year after the day they found out. Not me, but back in the early 80s my dad was diagnosed with leukemia. I don't have all details correct, but the gist of it is, him along with several other people with the same affliction, were given the choice to undergo the traditional method of treatment involving bone marrow transplants and whatnot, or go through with some kind of newer experimental version of chemotherapy. Out of the group of around 10 people, him and a Catholic priest chose chemo, while the others chose the bone marrow transplants. My father and the priest were the only ones to survive. A few years ago, when I was just starting out at my first job out of high school, part-time minimum wage, the works, my friend came to me with a great idea he had for a living situation, a nearby 5-bedroom house with lots of space that would be great for parties, and it would be super affordable, since rent would be split 6 ways. I opted out, because I didn't have a car, and there were no buses in the area. My friend really wanted this house, so he kept asking around to any friends of friends that were looking to move. He thought he had gotten a pretty good group of people together, and he only didn't know 2 of the people, so it seemed okay at first. I went over there for parties every now and then, and every time I went there, I heard about something new going wrong. First, one of the guys living there was a quiet solitary type who wanted out as soon as he realized that he basically moved into a frat house with people he didn't know. The other roommate that was kind of outside of our friend group had a string of emergencies that prevented her from paying rent, which meant that everyone else there had to throw down even more to make ends meet. One of my friends, already starting to get into debt, moved back in with his parents and kept trying to get his money back from everyone else who was in the same situation and didn't have any money to give. After most of the people had left, my friend had to get more friends of friends to live there in order to get through the rest of the lease. There were a lot of people trashing the house on a regular basis, including people that lived there and didn't have jobs, but refused to do any cleaning, and the people who had jobs were working so much to pay for everything that the house just went to shit. Quite literally, they had a very misbehaved dog that shat in the house. After their second set of roommates ended up being total assholes, or having medical issues that forced them to move out, the year-long lease was finally up, and even after spending a week of solid cleaning and fixing things themselves, they still didn't get any of their security deposit back, because parts of the house had gotten so jacked up. As I was helping my friends clean the house, they asked me, "Want to move in with us into a 4-bedroom house in the next town over?" I said no politely, and, again, watched things get worse for them all over at their new house. I was on a small elevator with about 15 other high schoolers, and several more were getting on. We were all headed to a baseball game. I decided I wanted no part of that crush of people and got off. The elevator ended up getting stuck between floors for over an hour and several kids threw up. I left my friend's 18th birthday party, where everyone was already smashed, at approximate 7 p.m., came back around 10, and pulled into the alley right in front of the police. Everyone went to jail but me, and a very intoxicated friend who was passed out behind a shed, and the police didn't see him. Editing to inform everyone who wondered why they were arrested that this took place in the US, where the legal drinking age is 21. Company I worked for, large multinational, relocated the division headquarters from where they had moved me 5 years before to a shithole city. They called it a lateral move, so there would be no pay increase. I took the severance package and negotiated 6 additional months of work to train my replacements. During the 6 months I also got to attend a major user conference on the company expense bonus. With 2 months left in my tenure, they announced they were dissolving the division and selling off the resources. Most of my co-workers were left unemployed in a new city with no connections or prospects. I, on the other hand, stopped working on my designated day, a Friday, and started working my next job, for more money, the next Monday. With a nice fat severance check arriving 4 weeks later. On a road trip, everyone stopped at a Sonic and got burgers. I didn't get anything, because I didn't want to be too gassy in the car. Everyone got terrible food poisoning, except me. Great, you made it to the end. Now smash that like button, and subscribe for even more videos like this one.